Intimacy teaches us to hear God. You see, people oftentimes who don't want to quiet themselves, turn an ear towards God, is because, I don't want to say they don't want to hear from God, but they're really not learning to hear from God at that moment in time. It's hard to hear God when things are pumping and celebrative. You know what I mean? I found that most culturally. You know, it's all about God. It's like we're declaring greatness on God. Intimacy takes another type of turn. And so for those who struggle with real intimacy and intimacy with God, usually struggle with, you know, the intimacy of rock music. They're bored. Why are they bored? Right? Because there's nothing going on. I love you, Lord. And I remember walking to church, I heard this song. It's like, I love you, Lord. I'm long hair, rocking heavy metal, and I worship you. I'm like, oh my God. Let it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. I was thinking, what about my ears? You know what I mean? Oh my. Okay, you're getting my point. I quieted down after some time, of course, and I learned the art of being intimate, and that comes a little bit more naturally to me. The celebration doesn't. So, for instance, this morning and the last few times I've led worship over the last 2 months, I'm stretching myself musically. I'm playing, I know who I am. Now, for real gospel people, that sounds more rock, okay? But for me, it's like, wow, I'm close to gospel now, you know what I mean? So, but that's my stepping song, if you will. It's a real stretch. And a few weeks ago, we played a song called Rejoice. Now, that's even closer to gospel. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say, come on, yeah, again I say, you need to be moving, you know what I'm saying? It's not like this. It's not like this. Rejoice in the Lord always, and again, oh God, I can't hear you, and again I say, why is Joseph screaming so loud? God, I can't hear you. I can't hear. Okay, you got my point. So even for me as a worship leader, I don't know how to do gospel. And I realize right now, for the people who come from that persuasion of music, it's a little slow right now. But we're working on it, and they know that, and they're okay with that. Amen? So we need a personal strategy, don't we, for how to worship. And here's what I would really recommend. For those of you who struggle with celebrating and celebratory songs, you should stand up and humble yourself before God and not worry about the people around you and say, I'm going to raise my hands and I'm going to declare to God who God is and who he really is. And then over time, you'll get it, right? Amen. See, the celebratory people are like, yeah, amen, do it. Okay. Now, for those of you who struggle with intimacy, what you need to do is I'll be quite frank with you. When the slow song comes, you need to shut up. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? You need to be quiet. Close your eyes or look at the word and say, okay, God, I'm going to try to hear you, God, now, even though I might fall asleep. And that's what you should begin to concentrate on in the midst of worship. And so maybe you should stand up and go like this, with your eyes closed, trying to silence yourself, not talking to the person next to you, not looking at the person next to you, not trying to rejoice in this slow song. That's not a rejoicing song. Come on, let's try to get into it. I love you, Lord. That's not going to work. So your goal is to stop and then listen to God. Does that make sense? So that would be your personal strategy. Remember, we're talking about growing the church and then personal worship and music. I don't want to lose you. You with me? Okay. So our goals, again, is to integrate one person to learn how to worship God. Next week, we're going to talk about the power of God through physical and emotional healing, and we got a movie clip for you. I'm sure you're wondering, what the heck does that have to do with it? Anything, but it has a lot to do with it because, the dog, Bolt, thought he was a hero because of his powers. But he was a hero because of his friends and his love for his friends. He didn't have any powers. but he had a lot of love for his friends. Now the hamster, part Wolverine, wanted to be a hero on a team even though he had no powers. But he was actually a hero because of his courage and faith that we could do anything. And then there was the cat, the realist, wanting to tell them they were not heroes, only normal people. But her heart was so broken she was dragged into the fray and saved by the hero friends and became a hero herself. See, we all have a part to play in the building of God's temples. And VX, they're all laughing at me. I feel insecure now. Yeah, thank you very much. But here's the thing I wanted you to get, is God uses the extraordinary men and women to do extraordinary things. Let me say that again. God uses the extraordinary men and women to do extraordinary things. Got it? So my hope is, let us do what they did in Nehemiah's time, is that God speaks to you as you hear our goals, as you're a part of this church and everything that's going on, is that we'll all just stand up and say, let's arise and let's build this thing together and put our hands to the work of doing it. Amen? Why don't we all stand?